Let's start by looking at some basic verbs and work out why they are weak verbs, and then look at how to change them to make the dictionary or plain form. Mimas is to watch or to see. Kimas. In this case, we're talking about kimas meaning to wear, as in wearing kimono or wearing clothing. Demas, to leave the house. Demas. Tabemas, to eat. Tabemas. Akemas, the Japanese verb to open a window or open a door. Akemas. To close. Shimemas. Shimemas, to close. Okimas, to wake up. Okimas. And abimas, the verb we use to take a shower. Shower or abimas. All of these verbs are weak verbs. Let's have a look at why. The first three, if we remove the mas, have only got one hiragana left over. So that makes them weak verbs. We cannot change that original hiragana. In most cases, there's a kanji or a character for that. So the mi in mimas, the ki in kimas, the de in demas cannot change. So they are weak verbs. We can only remove the mas. Remember, if you remove the mas and only one hiragana is left, it's a weak verb. The next group of verbs, tabemas, akemas, shimemas. If we remove the mas, we have a hiragana from the e row. If you remove the mas and the last hiragana is from the e row, we know it's a weak verb. The last two verbs down the bottom here are actually weak verbs because if you remove the mas, you only have one vowel sound, as in an o or an a, followed by one more hiragana, oki or abi, and that makes them weak verbs as well. There are some exceptions here because there are often words that are similar, and we need to be a little bit careful about this group. But remember, if there's just a vowel and one hiragana, that can be a weak verb in some cases. So, in any Japanese verb, if you look at it closely and it fits into any of these three categories, it will be considered a weak verb when it comes to changing it. And in actual fact, changing weak verbs to plain form, to past, to negative, and past negative, the weak verbs are actually quite simple. It's just a matter of removing the mas and adding a simple concept. If we're looking at the plain form or the dictionary form, we're going to remove the mas from these weak verbs and add ru to make the weak verb plain form. For example, mimas becomes miru. Terebi o mimasu, I watch TV. Terebi o miru, I watch TV. Kiru, to wear. Seifuku o kimasu, I wear my uniform. Seifuku o kiru, I wear my uniform in the plain form. Demasu becomes deru. Uchi o deru, to leave the house. Tabemasu becomes taberu. Keiki o taberu, I eat cake. Akemasu becomes akeru. Door o akeru, open the door is open. To open the door, doa o akeru. To close the door, doa o shimeru. Okimasu becomes okiru, and abimasu becomes abiru. Shower o abiru. As simple as that, our weak verbs are now all in the plain form. You can look those words up in the dictionary, and you'll see how Japanese dictionaries list verbs in the plain form. There are two exceptions that I want to take note of here. Shimasu, to do or play sport, actually does change. It becomes suru. Suru, tennis or suru. And kimasu, the verb to mean to come, actually changes to kuru, to come in the plain form. Kuru. Shimasu, suru, kimasu, kuru. They are the exceptions that we need to practice and study till we get them right. The other group of verbs are strong verbs. That means they all have more than one hiragana before the mas. They do not have the hiragana in the e row before mas, and usually there's more than just a vowel followed by one hiragana. So let's have a look at some strong verbs and work out what happens to them when we put them into the plain form. Kaimasu, to buy. Utaimasu, to sing. Kakimasu, to write. Hatarakimasu, to work. Hanashimasu, to speak. Tachimasu, to stand. Machimasu, to wait. Shinimasu, to die. Asobimasu, to play without any rules at all. Asobimasu. Yobimasu, to call. Yobimasu. Nomimasu, to drink. Yomimasu, to read. Hashirimasu, to run. And furimasu, for natural things to fall, like snow and rain. Furimasu. If we take off the mas from all of these verbs, and of course all Japanese verbs in the polite form end in mas, if we remove the mas, we can see that we actually leave behind all hiragana from the I row of the chart. So kaimasu would become kai, ending in I. Utaimasu, utai. Kaki. Hataraki, hanashi, tachi, machi, shini, asobi, yobi, nomi, yomi, hashiri, and furi. We can see that every single one of those hiragana that's left on the end after removing mas comes from the I row. We're going to change that by dropping them down to the U row on our hiragana chart. So I, ki, shi, chi, ni, hi, mi, ri, including the bi for hi with voice marks, we're now going to drop them down to the U row. And the U row means that our ending of every single one of our verbs will change slightly. So kai from kaimasu will change to kau, to buy. Kau from the I in the I row down to the U underneath it. From kai to kau. And utaimasu does the same thing. Take off the mas, utai, change the I from the I row to the U, and we get utau, to sing. Utau. Kaki will become kaku. Hatarakimasu, hataraku. Hanashimasu, hanasu, because she is su in the U row. Hanasu. Tachimasu, the chi will become tsu. For tachimasu, to tatsu. Machimasu, to matsu. Simply dropping from the I row to the U row. Shini, for shinimasu, will change to shinu. Asobi, will change to asobu. Yobi, yobi, yobu. Nomimasu, nomu. Yomimasu, yomu. Hashirimasu, hashiru. Furimasu, furu. And that's how you make the plain form of strong verbs in the Japanese language. There's lots of endings we can add to the plain form to say other things like maybe, I think, I intend to, etc. But changing the verbs from the must to the plain form isn't complicated, it's just something we need to practice. Strong verbs go from the it row to the ut row on the hiragana chart. Weak verbs just take off the must and add ru.